All right, in today's Fashion Forward, we're going to lean into the forward part because some of these looks, they're just completely wild. We are actually diving into the world of digital fashion. And joining us, of course, to break it all down, our fashion expert, Heather Newberger. Hey, Heather.
Hey, Natalie, this is a fun topic. I'm excited to talk about it with you.
It's honestly like mind-blowing, digital fashion making millions of dollars, but we have to explain to the people out there, what exactly is digital fashion?
So digital fashion is really interesting because basically it comes from the space of creators online being really interested in fashion pieces and actually making them for their own personal avatars. Then fashion brands actually seeing what these different kids are doing, how they're monetizing things, and taking those opportunities and actually running with them. Brands like Coach, Adidas, ASOS, partnering with these people and also bringing new people onto their teams so that they can create items and different kinds of merchandise for all the different metaverses that are popping up, as well as different game platforms such as Fortnite and Roblox.
Now, we certainly saw a little bit of digital fashion when we did our piece about that metaverse fashion show, but we still have to wrap our brain around a lot of this. How are designers able to actually monetize these pieces?
So different companies are kind of popping up right now that are really kind of sort of creating these brand partnerships that I think make a lot of sense in terms of connecting with these creators and then also figuring out the right ways to monetize. So as an example, there's a company in the UK that's working closely with brands like Coach and ASOS and also different platforms like Fortnite and Decentraland, which we actually talked about earlier when we were talking about our Meta Fashion Week, which was, so wild. I don't know if you guys attended, but either way, it's interesting because what they're doing is they're taking these pieces and they're also thinking about the active consumers who would engage with them. So these companies are kind of interfacing between what's going on in the metaverse sphere and also sort of in, intangible kind of ways with these creators. And then they're taking those opportunities and they're actually running with them. And they're saying, there's Ready Player Me, there's Decentraland, there's Sandbox, there's Fortnite, there's Roblox. And they're identifying which games is right for the correct audience. So as an example, ASOS's consumer base is much younger. And so they're actually engaging with Roblox or Fortnite, and they're offering things at a much lower price point so they can have more pieces, much like fast fashion. Whereas for a brand like Coach, they're really focusing on Decentraland because those pieces are more like NFTs, and they're definitely for a slightly older market. It can kind of go between $200 to $2,000 in that sort of market space.
So we're seeing a few of those here, but what do these pieces look like?
It's interesting. I think what we're seeing in a lot of these images is taking these pieces and putting them onto real people. And so what it would kind of look like in that world. That being said, none of these items are wearable. They're crazy, they're fun, they're kooky, but they're meant for your avatar. They're meant to be online in this space. And so it's interesting because a lot of people are talking about, digital fashion as being this really interesting way of combating sustainability issues. But at the same time, that's also accepting that we're sort of comfortable entering into the metaverse for the foreseeable future. I'm not quite sure people are really there yet.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you're seeing right into the future. But what would you say, as we're seeing just the beginning of this digital fashion world, what do you think the future of this type of stuff is?
I think there's a lot of promise in it. It's interesting. There's a company over in England, or I'm sorry, a college over in England that actually just had its first program for digital fashion that was requested by students. Students were saying, we want to have this training. We want to be able to enter into this field. And ultimately that program connected with Farfetch, and two of those students went on to go work for Farfetch. So there are really a lot of different brands are starting to get into this space. They want to have a presence and people want to be active in that as well, which I think is even more interesting. So as these things kind of develop in this underdeveloped space, it's going to be fascinating to watch what happens in the future because there's a lot of promise.
Yeah, lots of things happening. For us right now, maybe we want to dabble a little bit. Where should we start, or what's an easy interface that we can kind of play around with this digital fashion?
I think if you're going to start playing around with something, I would suggest kind of going into whatever platform you're already engaging with. I personally do not have a platform that I engage with. I'm so sorry to say, but I will say when we did do our Metaverse Fashion Week, I was engaging with Decentraland and kind of getting an idea of what it looked like. And it's interesting because, much like, I don't know if you remember The Sims, buying clothes for your avatar that are, or having, options for your avatar that are free are available, but there's also the opportunity to get more premium pieces for a certain price. So I think it's all about really visual stuff and how you want to stand out and stand, in these spaces and really signal things the same way you would in the real world. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of progresses over the next few years and really how much our digital presence is connected to our wardrobes and ourselves.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to say how old we are, but Sims was my reference too. That's the first thing I went to, Heather. All right, thank you so much for your time, you guys. Make sure you follow Heather on Instagram at Heather Newberger. And you can pick up her book, How to Date Your Wardrobe. We'll see you again next week.